ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
There are times you'll spend months preparing for that special day, like when your child is born or when you get hitched to the love of your life. You get so invested that you might start to lose perspective, and your special day becomes unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. Births, deaths and marriages, a new mini-series by Background Briefing, available now on ABC Listen.
The Eaton Canyon fire that took down our neighbourhood, it was absolutely apocalyptic. I've never seen anything like that in my life. It's just like a monster. It's just taking everything out.
For almost 2 decades, Australian artist Mark Whalen has called LA home. But last week, everything changed in an instant. Mark, like so many others, lost his home to the wildfires, and they're still not under control. Today, Mark shares his experience, and we speak to a fire captain during the 2003 Canberra bushfires about the lessons learned and whether we're better prepared now. I'm Sam Hawley on Gadigal land in Sydney. This is ABC News Daily.
My name's Mark Whalen. Yeah, I'm an artist. I'm a sculptor. Yeah, I've been living in Los Angeles maybe for 17 years, and I live in Altadena. And yeah, we just experienced, I guess, the biggest fire in LA history, I think.
California's famous Malibu coastline reduced to rubble.
Home after home, street after street. Entire neighbourhoods burned to the ground.
I actually watched that fire for 10 hours burn. We live like a mile off the mountain, and it actually started at 6 p.m. on the east side of the mountain, and we heard there was a fire over there, and all night we just kind of watched it creep west over like the rest of Altadena. And by 2 a.m. it looked like it was kind of just coming closer and closer. We weren't even in the evacuation zone, even though we did live kind of close to the mountain. I think everyone just expected it to like stay up on the mountain. The winds were so insane. I mean, I felt like my windows were going to get ripped out of my house. They were so strong. And by like 4 a.m. in the morning, our entire street and house was like full of smoke, and we were evacuating. And then, yeah, someone said to me like the next day, early in the morning, that our house was still standing. So like I went back with a friend, and we went back into like the fire zone.
We can go this way. Do you want to go this way or go this way?
Go right. A huge fire there, dude. What the f***?
It was absolutely apocalyptic. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Careful, be careful.
Yeah, I'm watching, don't worry.
And your house certainly wasn't still standing.
Yeah, it wasn't standing. We were just driving in. Every single street, even getting to my house, was wiped out. We were driving past like power lines, and we could see like gas lines on fire. It was crazy. Those houses exploding all over the place. We finally got down to my house, and it was just like totally gone.
And it's taken and is taking such a long time to get these fires under control, isn't it? Is that shocking to people, that firefighters can't actually stop this in its tracks now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the Eaton Canyon fire that took down our neighborhood. It's just like a monster. It's just taking everything out. The fire department seems like they're incredibly, underwhelmed with resources. I mean, the fire hydrants weren't working in all of Altadena. Like, they just didn't have the resources to even fight any of the fires. I mean, obviously there were firefighters out there and they were trying their best, and I appreciate that they were out there doing everything they absolutely could, but they didn't have much to work with. And I just feel horrible for them too, because they didn't have what they needed to like battle this. And they pretty much just had to let it burn, which is, what they did.
And I can see people now are even trying to recruit private firefighters, and then there's looting. I mean, it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, I mean, people are dressing up as firefighters and they're like robbing houses that are standing. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, apart from like what I physically saw, it was just so apocalyptic, and like it felt like a bomb just hit the entire neighborhood. And yeah, I mean, they're pulling people. There's like trained inmates getting flown in from all over the place to help fight the fires. I mean, they're pulling every resource they can possibly get. It's just insane. There was a massive art community in Altadena. The list of artists and art studios burnt down. I don't think there's like anyone have anything left pretty much. So there's, multiple artists that had exhibits at the end of this month that they've spent like a couple years making the work, all burnt to the ground. Yeah, it's just completely shocking.
Do you feel like someone's to blame here at this point? I know there's been a lot of criticism already of the governor, of the mayor, etc. But who's to blame? Is anyone really to blame?
Yeah, I mean, it does come down to them, It's like how many fires need to go down in Los Angeles before they realize like Los Angeles should have the biggest fire budget that they could possibly have,
So, Mark, what for you now? Will you rebuild where you were? Do you feel safe to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's got to be a lot of changes around there when it comes to fires. If this doesn't show them that those changes need to go into place, I think everyone's just going to move out of LA. But yeah, I mean, we want to stay there. We loved our community there. I'm definitely going to rebuild my house there. I think everyone wants to fight to like keep the community there.
My name's Vivien Thomson. I'm been a firefighter for over 37 years now. Also farm, so my closest to the land is pretty tight.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were a fire captain during the bushfires in Canberra in 2003.
This is being described as the single most destructive, most ferocious bushfire onslaught in Australian history. It was, as the Prime Minister has said, the worst possible combination of tinder-dry bushland, intense heat and cyclonic winds.
And I know what is happening in LA is at a greater scale, but it shows us that there are cities in Australia that could face this risk, right? Because we saw that in Canberra in 2003.
Oh, yes. What we've seen in Canberra, in all honesty, we thought we'd never see again, but we keep on seeing it over and over again across the world.
You helped fight those fires, of course. I was actually there just covering it as a journalist.
And, Samantha Hawley joins us once again, I do believe, from Chapman.
Yes, I am still in Chapman. This street that I'm standing on at the moment is absolute devastation. I can't walk down it anymore. The smoke is so thick. There would be 15 houses that have been burnt to the ground here. Houses are still burning. Firefighters have not even made it near here yet.
The images, they never really leave you, do they?
No, they don't.
It's very difficult to see.
Yeah, it's also the noise of the wind. Sometimes when the wind blows in the trees, it triggers memories, and there's all those emotions that are also wrapped up in that visual as well. It's so catastrophic. It's so wide. It's so overwhelming. It's what we classify as your emotional bucket just overflows, and it's very hard to contain that.
Well, of course, we have also, since 2003, had many devastating fires in Australia, including, of course, the 2019-2020 fires when almost 3,000 homes were lost across Australia. So we are no strangers to what is happening in LA, that is for sure. Now, in LA, one of the big problems they faced was they simply seemed to run out of water. That seems incredible in itself.
It does.
What did you make of that?
Well, it does happen. I know it happened in Canberra as well. The majority of water in Canberra is gravity fed, but there's one reservoir that wasn't. And as soon as the power went down, of course, you lose that water. And I'm assuming that's what happened in some instances. It's not just running out of water, it's also there's no power to move the water around as well. So it becomes a double whammy.
And the wind, of course, was a big factor in Canberra and in LA, even more so. The winds were up to 160 kilometres per hour. So how can a firefighter even do anything in that circumstance when winds are so fierce?
Yeah, and that's right. That's the hard thing. When things get to that point, because I know the fire in Canberra, it travelled something like 20 kilometres in 40 minutes. You can't do anything with that. You can't fly aircraft in those conditions either. So you literally have to fall back and protect lives, number one. And then if you're able to, you protect property. Number two, if you can, you try and fight the fire, but in those sort of conditions, really, even if you do have water, there's not much that you're going to be able to do. Your capacity is exceptionally limited. You know, I heard this saying many years ago that fire is a really harsh teacher. It gives you the test first and the lesson afterwards. In 2003, we'd done a lot of preparations, but, you know, when the conditions are such, it makes it exceptionally difficult to fight that. I think California is slightly different, where their houses are just packed so close together. And their building materials, from what I understand, are quite different to ours as well. So, you know, the lessons that we've learnt here in Australia is we change the building codes, and that's maybe some of the things they're going to have to look at in California as well.
So over 20 years, you've seen, I guess, fires change, intensify. Do you think, Vivien, that we are ready for an LA-type fire? I don't want to think about that, but are we ready for that?
I think so. Look, I think over the last 20 years, Australia has learned a lot of lessons, and we have new systems in place. Like we have the new fire danger rating that you'd see when you're driving around, especially in the rural areas and the outskirts of towns and communities. And we've got good warning systems. You know, we tell people to evacuate. They know they need to evacuate. The fire service, our job really is to chase the fire, and then we fall back to property protection when we know we can't necessarily have a great deal or effect on the fire, fighting the fires. So there's so much, I think, that we do better. Our building standards are better. And I know, for instance, in Canberra, after the 2003 fires, we now have community organisations that are provided with firefighting equipment, and we educate and we train them as well. So they get together as a community and work out for themselves what their priorities are and all that sort of stuff. So there is so much that we do so much better. And look, I'd never say we'd never have catastrophic fires again like LA. It's, you know, the weather and climate change, it's affecting us in so many different ways. And I've been watching it for 20 years, and it is getting harder and it is getting drier. But yeah, I do believe that we are definitely doing things better.
So tell me, Vivien, what would be your message to the people of LA as they go through this really difficult time and this huge tragedy?
The one thing I would really emphasise is take time. You know, I know after 2003, it took me over 5 years before I felt like I'd got back to my old self and life was a new normal. If you come in too soon and too hard, you may make decisions that may not be the best ones. Don't rush back too soon.
Vivien Thomson was a fire captain during the 2003 Canberra bushfires. She's been a firefighter for more than 37 years. Mark Whalen is an artist who has called LA home for almost 2 decades. This episode was produced by Cara Jensen-McKinnon, Sydney Peed and Anna John. Audio production by Sam Dunn. Our supervising producer is David Cody. I'm Sam Hawley. Thanks for listening.